Hey, welcome to the OT Asset Management Weekly webcast, where we talk about all things OT asset management. Today is something like a prequel to the topic that we had announced, which is performance-based OT vulnerability management. So today I'm going to set the stage for what is going to come, and I'll tell you what's going to come is significant. When you think about vulnerabilities, which you obviously do, otherwise you wouldn't be here. The one thing that you should consider when we are talking about the big picture is the vast majority of your vulnerabilities come from Windows software applications. Even in OT, that's not a difference. And if you think about it, it's very simple to explain, because consider a PLC or an RTU or a drive. Those OT devices execute one specific software product, firmware. Okay, so one firmware version that might be plagued with a known vulnerability. So the number of vulnerabilities that you have to deal with for those devices will never be higher than the number of devices. And that is very much different when you consider Windows PCs. The operating system itself comes with thousands of vulnerabilities until you patch them. And many of the applications that you run also come with their share of vulnerabilities. And particularly in OT, this is a problem because you know how it is. In OT, you don't update every so frequently. That means if you consider, just plain off the mill products such as Office, Microsoft Office. If you don't update those products, they will also have their share of vulnerabilities. So therefore, your attack surface is mostly defined by Windows software. It is what it is. That also means if your OT security solution does not cover the Windows applications in your OT environment, it will not tell you the full story about your vulnerabilities. And that's bad, because if you don't know the full story, then your risk assessment will be at odds. You cannot arrive at more or less accurate results if you only see a small part of your actual vulnerabilities. So that means you do need to factor your Windows software in, and the way you do that is it must be in your OT asset inventory. The OT asset inventory must also include a software inventory where every single software product in its version and also in respect to where it's hosted is cataloged. And this is what we are going to look at today. And then next week, we will look at what you can do with this trove of information, how you can then, with the understanding of what you have installed, how you can then get an idea of your attack surface. But first of all, let's ask ourselves, how do we actually obtain this information? Well, one thing's for sure, this is something that you will never be able to inventory manually. It's impossible, because not only do you have to record the operating system version, which is something that many people do when they go through the manual exercise of just putting everything into a nice Excel spreadsheet. That is not enough. So you need to know all the installed applications, all the installed security patches, all the installed libraries, such as Microsoft C++ runtime. And obviously, that is never going to happen if you do it manually. Never. And therefore, you must have a means of recording this information, obtaining this information automatically. And I'll tell you a little bit how we do that in OTbase. Let's look at the alternatives that we offer when it comes to discovery, when it comes to actually getting all that data from your platforms. So what you see here is the various flavors in which our OT-based discovery product comes. Basically, for starters, the OT-based discovery is all software. You don't need a hardware sensor. All right, it's all software. And usually what you're going to use is this Windows non-agent version. That's like the standard bread and butter delivery of OT-based discovery. And this version would allow you to gather the software configuration from Windows boxes in your OT networks by remotely accessing those boxes using WinRM or WMI, Windows Remote Management or Windows Management, Windows Instrumentation Management Instrumentation. Okay, and that works very well. However, sometimes there are objections against this approach. So sometimes the owner of the system in question might say, no, I don't want that other application, OT-based discovery, to access my box, my machine, using an admin account via WinRM. For security reasons, I don't want this to happen, even though the credentials for this access never leave OT-based discovery. So they stay local in that instance. They will never travel to OT-based inventory. So in order to cover this scenario, you have two alternatives, which you see here, an agent version and a mobile version. So the agent, I think you can guess what it does. You install the agent on the endpoint in question, and technically it's a service, and that service does nothing else but discovers only the software configuration of this particular endpoint. So it doesn't reach out to the network as the non-agent version does. It also discovers health data, and it even discovers data flow for that particular endpoint. And all this information is packed into an encrypted file and then sent to OT-based inventory. So and this way, you don't need to allow remote access via WinRM or WMI. So that's an important addition for those use cases. And then for Windows, you also have a mobile USB version that you don't have to install in the first place. So you can simply execute it from a medium such as a USB stick. Certainly you can also copy it to the hard disk, but the thing is you don't have to install it. And with the USB-based version, you could, for example, go from endpoint to endpoint, execute the mobile version, and a couple of seconds later, you have the full software configuration on stick, and then you can upload it to OT-based inventory. And just in the interest of being complete, then we also have that same stuff for Linux, for Docker, for Raspberry Pi, you name it. But here we're talking mainly about Windows. So this is how you can automatically get the data about your software configuration. And then when you import this data into OT-based inventory, it's automatically consolidated. And what you're going to see is a software inventory. And you may remember when we look at device profiles for individual endpoints, that you will also see that the list of installed software. You will see the number of installed patches. You see exactly which patches are installed. Based on that, we can inform you about any unremediated vulnerabilities and so on. But this is the software inventory. Okay, so you see devices. Usually we look at the devices inventory here, but you can also say, no, just show me the software products that are installed in my universe, in my installed base. And that is not limited to Windows, but certainly you will see most products that are Windows applications, because that makes for the bulk of your installed software. And then for any given tool, you see the number of installations in that first column. You see the vendor name, the version, the type, the category, and so on. And anytime you want to get additional details, you do a double click for the drill down. And then you can see where you have those installations, and you could always drill down from there. So that is how it works. This is the software inventory. And again, for every single product, you also see where it is installed. You also see the vulnerabilities. So let's just do this drill down here for a second. I see 79 installations total, and I see exactly where those are. And that certainly goes a long way when we are doing our remediation efforts. And this is what we're going to discuss in next week's session. So you already get the idea. This is very complete, and everything is tied together and contextualized. So if I look at this particular endpoint here, I see exactly where it is located. I see it has a criticality on it, and all the other details. So this, by the way, was discovered using WMI. You see that here in this tags section. And WinRM would then show up as WinRM, as you can guess. And when you look at this software list here, this is what you're going to get at the endpoint level. Okay, so here you see the full list, the full software configuration, starting with the operating system version, with the installation date, with the product lifecycle, and then you see all the installed applications. And certainly we got factory talk, etc. And certainly you would never be able to assemble those lists manually. It's just impractical. It doesn't work. And if you use OTbase Discovery, you get this information in a couple of seconds. And since this is done repeatedly every 24 hours, you will be informed of any updates that happen. All right, so you would see, okay, somebody has installed a new version of Factory Talk, as an example. When did that happen? You will see that in the device's timeline. This is certainly very important. So that is a cornerstone of configuration management, that you're able to track the configuration history of a particular endpoint, especially when it comes to Windows boxes. So all of these applications with the installation date, you see some are categorized, such as engineering, software applications there, and this is done automatically. So OTbase knows about those applications and will automatically categorize them as engineering, which makes your life a little bit easier, because, I mean, anytime you open this list for a particular device and you see this stuff here in violet, you know, oh, that is most likely an engineering station. And if you take a closer look, well, you see, okay, it's running Factory Talk, it's running RS Links, so you know what to make out of that. And all the other Rockwell stuff here, Studio 5000, and that gives you an idea. Then you see those components as well in a separate section. This is divided because usually you don't want to actually go into all those details, but if you do, then it's all there. The information is all there. Pretty long list. You see all the patches that have been installed. You see the installation date, which is very important, because this will allow you very easily to inform you about devices that are severely out of patch because they haven't been patched, let's just say, for 3 years. Something like that does exist in OT. And OTbase would tell you rather quickly, and this is even a parameter, if you have followed last week's session where I talked about the data model for vulnerability management, etc. This is a data point that we expose even via the REST API, the number of days since last patch, which makes your auditing so much easier and so much more powerful. Because you should always start with a big picture in order to get an idea where you should focus your activities. And then finally, we have a services section where you see all the installed services, such as a SQL Server or an OPC server. So this is how the software configuration is determined and exposed in OTbase. So far, we have been looking at products, but you see there is another tab up here where we can also check out individual installations. And that is probably helpful for use cases where you would say, for example, show me right away all the instances of factory talk. So I filter this list, and now I am looking at individual installations. Okay, and you see in this number here in the upper right corner, 1300 results, so 1300 and change, that this is all the factory talk stuff, all the installations that I have. And then I could always break it further down. So for example, I could say, well, you know, I only want to see it from a very special location. I want to see it in our Flatrock site, let's just say in the body in white building. And then you would get only this, and you see the number of results has gone down. And all of these are individual instances. You can also pull up the charts if you want to get an idea right away which versions you are looking at. So those donut charts right here will give you that impression right away. And as always, you can do a drill down like so, where you get the device profile of the endpoint where this particular product is installed in that particular filter setting. Okay, so you see that's in unit 4 in the body in white building, and you can always drill further down. So let's just say we only want to focus on unit 4, and then you are going to see just that, and we're looking at 36 results. And this is like the prerequisite if you want to do some meaningful vulnerability management, because let me state that again, the bulk of your vulnerabilities of your attack surface is in the Windows area, right? So certainly we will always look at vulnerabilities for OT devices, even in drives. You have seen that already. But the whole idea of performance-based vulnerability management or performance-based OT security is that you take a different approach that focuses on results. I want to see big results quickly when it comes to reducing the attack surface, when it comes to remediating known vulnerabilities. Where, I mean, the risk-based approach usually has something like a sniper flair to it, right? So you want to single out the most critical of the critical vulnerabilities, and oh, this is so bad, we have to remediate right now. Okay, and then your co-workers tell you that's not going to happen because you're talking about drives, problems within a particular firmware version of my, I don't know, 150 drives here in the Podunk plant, and you're not going to shut down production in order to update the firmware for these drives. And then the risk is accepted, and you know how that goes, it just piles up. So my bottom line is the risk-based approach sounds always good on paper, but it only goes so far. And so in reality, at some point in time, you're going to realize, we are not making enough progress. And what I'm suggesting is, just try a different approach, which we will be talking about a lot in the upcoming weeks and months. And if you want to get some idea, or if you want some literature about that, you will find ideas in our OT vulnerability management handbook that you can download from our website, from the resources page. I think there's also a blog post about it. So performance-based vulnerability management is all about getting meaningful results quickly when it comes to reducing your attack surface. And today I wanted to set the stage for what I will be showing in more detail next week, where I'm going to show you additional tools in OTbase that really go a long way in this interest. And the whole premise is we are not happy with our vulnerability management so far using the risk-based approach. Well, if you're honest, you would say, yeah, it's always these small little tasks that I can knock off, but I'm fully aware that my attack surface as such is just almost as big as it was, because those small scale projects, when you focus on the most critical of the critical systems, they yield tiny improvements. And 4 weeks later, they're already eaten up by all the new vulnerabilities that have dropped onto your systems. So therefore, a different approach is needed. And I can tell you, my friends, it starts with looking at your Windows software. And I think I shouldn't even have to do some hard selling here for this idea, for a very simple reason that's basically unrelated. What is the biggest threat today? Ransomware. You all know it. You know it. So your ransomware operator, they will not go after your PLCs or VFDs. They don't even know what a PLC is, and they don't care. So if you want to arrive at a reasonable protection against ransomware, and if you want to demonstrate that to management, you cannot get around your Windows applications. And it all starts with recording, with inventorying those applications in the first place. If your asset or your OT asset inventory doesn't list all those installations, it's useless for OT vulnerability management. That's the long and short of it. And therefore, it does play, so that whole software configuration trope does play a significant role in OTbase. And I showed you how we actually collect this data. You have a couple of alternatives. Let me also point out that if you want to take a closer look, you can even download the evaluation version of OTbase Discovery from our website and see it for yourself how it works. And I tell you one thing, you will be amazed. In a couple of seconds, you have the full software configuration of your Windows boxes. And that goes a long way. If you don't have this information available for your OT vulnerability management, you are fooling yourself and also your management. Sorry. So I think I have to close on this sour note, but it is what it is. Next week is then going to get more optimistic again, because I'm going to show you, if you have this data, all the cool things that you can do with it. And then all of a sudden you say, oh, damn, I never knew. And now I have really something to focus on where I know that I will make a huge dent in the attack surface, and I will be able to demonstrate it to management. See you next week. Bye-bye.